I am back for part 2 of our interview with Hockey Hall of Famer Steve Shutt. Steve, you were in Leduc when we got cut off last time. What the heck happened?
Well, if anybody's been to Leduc, anybody would realize that there's a couple of rocks up there, and like lots of rocks, and so cell phones don't quite work through rocks.
Well, especially ones from.
That was just it. We just hit one great big rock there.
So how did the tour end?
Actually, the tour ended quite well. Everybody had a good time, and everybody survived it, which is even better. So,
is there some voodoo magic from your old number 22 that's hit Dale Weiss with that goal last night?
You know what? He's actually played pretty well. And if you look what Marc Bergevin has done, I've looked at what they've done this year, and there's been a couple of things. Number one, they've calmed the whole situation down. You don't hear any, even Michel Therrien, there's no yelling and screaming. It seems like there's a process to what they're trying to do. And Bergevin, right at the very end, the pickups that he got, with Mike Weaver and Weiss and of course Vanek, he's done a great job, but they've done it with purpose. There's a reason why they got Mike Weaver. Just look at all the blocks, shots he's blocked. So you got him and Josh George there. I mean, they got to be Carey Price's best friends.
Well, Weaver's been a phenomenal pickup for the team. His numbers are just nothing like his career numbers, and this is a veteran. I mean, you think he's 35 or 36.
Exactly, and he's fit in. Weiss is fit in. He adds a little bit of grit, and they certainly don't expect him to score goals, but that's been a pleasant surprise. But they wanted a little bit more grit, which they needed. Obviously, the biggest surprise was Vanek and how well he's played and how well he's fit in. That's been a big surprise as all. But generally, if you look at what the Canadiens management has done this year, I would give them an A+ rating. Whether they win, lose, or draw, they've put the team in a position to win.
Well, and they're in the second round now, so they've come a distance.
Exactly, and again playing against Boston, but they put their team in a position. Like just imagine if they go against Boston and they don't have the three guys that they picked up. Well, they wouldn't have the shot blocking, they wouldn't have the grit, and they wouldn't have the goal scoring, and they probably wouldn't be up in the series right now.
Now, they've been really, really lucky. The hockey gods have been smiling on them because they have been letting up, it seems, in the second and the third period, and a team like Boston, you just don't want them in your zone at all for any period of time, no matter how good you are defensively. Do you think the Canadiens can go deep with this kind of approach?
Well, what happens is that everybody says the 2-goal lead is the worst lead in hockey, but they don't tell you why. And what happens when you have a 2-goal lead, you have a tendency to sit back, and you don't try and get that third goal. And the coaches subconsciously are saying, get it out of your zone, get it out of your zone, make the smart play, make the easy play. Well, what basically they're telling the players is play defensive, make sure that you do everything in your own zone. So subconsciously, the players now are backing off, and they're sitting on a league. And with a team like Boston, they're coming at you, and if they get one goal, they're going to get two, and they've proved that time and time again. And it's just a tough thing to get out of everybody's heads that once you have a 2-goal lead, that you've got to strive and drive for that third goal.
Keep it in the other guy's zone. Now, Boston has not really laid on the beef this series. They have not been as physical as they normally would. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think that what's happened is the Canadians have gotten a little grittier, and I think Boston's gotten a little faster. You know, like they're pretty close to each other right now. Where it's kind of in my era when I was playing, you know, we were definitely the faster team, and they definitely were the tougher team. And I think that gap is narrowed a little bit right now. They've got a lot of skilled players there. You know, Bergevin is one. You know, Krug is another one. You know, like smaller kind of players that skill guys. Krejci is another one. So they've got their skill guys, and also, you know, you've got Montreal now. They got some heavyweights now. You know, like they've got Murray, who's 240, Emelin. You know, you've got a couple of big forwards right now, and that are playing pretty well in Vanek and who's the other kid? 17.
Gallagher.
No.
Oh, Bork. He's not a kid.
Yeah, Rene Bork. And it was funny because I was talking to my son.
Uh-huh.
And
which one?
I was talking to Jason, who lives in Montreal, and he was saying, How are the playoffs? How do you think the playoffs are going to go? And I said, well, it's going to depend on Rene Bork and Brian Giunta. You know, secondary scoring is going to make the difference in the playoffs. And he just kind of came back with a big question mark. But as it's turned out, it's worked out.
Do you get frustrated? You were the power play coach for the Habs when you were coaching. When you see them struggle on the power play, do you just want to like send them emails or yell at them?
Not really. You see what's happening. I mean, when they've got the nucleus of the best power play in the league. And really they have not, you know, they struggled a little bit, but throughout the whole year, I mean, I've watched these guys play, you know, and you've got Markov and Subban back there. I mean, these guys are great. You know, Dagenet, he's a guy that can handle the puck, and he sets them up, and you've got a couple of goal scorers in Pacioretty and Vanek. I mean, you've got the ideal situation for a great power play. And these guys use it, and when they're on their game, and that means when they have movement, and it's movement from everywhere. When they're on their game and when they're moving around, I mean, they could be the best power play in the league.
Has PK Subban lived up to his billing? I mean, he's done everything this series. He's actually owned this series almost.
Oh yeah. There's no, you know, he's the real deal. He's special. And I said that before with a lot of people when I first saw this kid play. He's going to make mistakes. I mean, Bobby Orr, when he played, made the most mistakes on the Boston Bruins. Well, and you know why he made the most mistakes? Because he had the puck the most. You know, that's the reality. But he what I like about him is he owns up to it. Hey, when he has a bad game, he knows it, and he's willing to, you know, he doesn't go into a snit if they sit him on the bench. I like the way that he's responded to everything, and if you listen to him, if you listen to his interviews, I mean, he says exactly the right things. And you know what? You know, everybody says, well, you know, he's got some swagger to him. Well, you know what? If you don't have any swagger to you, you're not going to survive in that league. And so you got to have a little bit of swagger, and you need that. Don't
we need more swagger in this stage of politically correct speaking and politically correct behavior? Don't we have to actually sell the game a little bit?
Well, it's you have to have, and it's a very fine line between swagger and conceit. And to one person's swagger, it's another person's conceit.
Right.
So, you know, what I've always said when when I was playing is if I didn't believe in myself, how could anybody else believe in me? So you had to have that confidence factor in yourself, and you just have to have it. And you see the guys that are confident because they're the guys making those spectacular plays, where you see the other guys that are not as sure of themselves. Well, they're going to make the safer play, and because they just don't have that confidence that they can do that play.
So, any fearless predictions for the rest of the playoffs?
My predictions?
Yeah.
Well, you know what happens with predictions is, first of all, I've never been very good at them. But you know, the thing that's happened in the NHL right now is when you get to the final 8 teams, any one of them could win, and it wouldn't be a real surprise. You know, there's one of the things in the NHL right now. There's a lot of parity within the league, and people don't understand that you know, the top team can play against the bottom team, and if that top team dips by 10 or 15%, well, that bottom team's going to beat them. And, you know, that's the difference between the NHL right now and the NHL in the 70s when I was playing. You know, we're like right now, they've got some good players there, and people misunderstand that if, you know, one of the low teams comes in and beats your team, well, you know what? It's not necessarily that your team didn't play that well. It's maybe the other team just had a really, really good night and just played great. Well, and that's what it is.
It's about desire and dedication too. You look at San Jose choking the way they did against the Kings. That's got to be the most brutally difficult experience to have happen as a professional athlete.
Well, that's devastating. That devastates careers. You know, to be up 3-0 and then lose 4 in a row. I mean, I know every single person in the organization has just got to be questioning themselves of, you know, what did I do wrong? And what could I have done better to at least win one of the games? That's just devastating.
Now, nowadays in hockey, everybody's talking about these newfangled statistics. There's Corsi percentages and Fenwick numbers, and we started a lot of this back in the 90s when you were coaching and I was the video stat guy for the Habs, and a lot of the stuff that we did still isn't being done. Do you think that people can over-interpret statistics? How did you view statistics back then, and how do you think that they're being used now?
I think statistics are good. You know, I think it's a good benchmark, but it's also, you have to combine it with something else. You know, with video, with a feel of each player. You know, so but just to go totally on numbers, that's not the right way of doing it.
Right.
And you know, you've got to look at the situation of each player. You've got to look at you know, who he's playing with, injuries, who he's playing against, who's all of that kind of stuff. So it's one gauge, you know, that you put into your arsenal of trying to get a player to play or scouting a player. But there's also the intangible of what is that player like. You know, how does he fit in your dressing room? What is he like if he has a bad game? What is he like if he has a good game? Is he easy to get along with? Those are all things that you can't put, and you really can't put a number to it.
For sure.
So you have to use the whole. You have to use everything at your disposal. You know, when you're doing scouting, pre-scouting, or you know, just judging a player.
All right, and last question: what's up for Steve Shutt in the next little bit? Are you doing any big projects this summer?
Not really. You know, one of the current thing that I just did is after my last hockey tour, I was not feeling that well, so you know, I just had a little tightness in my chest, and so I went and got a stress test which I flunked spectacularly. And so they brought me in, and they found out that I had two blockages in my artery, and I was blocked to about 95%. And they went in there and put 2 stents in.
Wow.
So I feel great now. And the reason I'm telling people this is because if you getting symptoms, a chest or nausea, if you're eating Tums all the time, and if you're tired all the time, that's your body telling you that something's not right. And as my doctor was saying, he says there's 200,000 people that die every single year because they don't go in and get a stent, which is about a 45-minute operation. They didn't even put me under. They just sedated me. I'm sitting there basically talking with the doctor, and it didn't hurt or anything like that, but 200,000 people a year die because they don't get that.
That's incredible.
And it really was. So it's kind of opened my eyes. And so anyways, after all that, I feel great and feel a lot better than I did. So I'm ready for old-timers hockey next year.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Steve. Just hold on a sec.